unorthodox relationships demand so much honesty? We first have to look at the culture of dishonesty that can quietly creep into traditional monogamy. This isn't malicious. People in monogamy and those monogamous relationships aren't liars. It's just that the structure itself comes with a preloaded operating system of unspoken rules, and we rarely stop to question the code. So think about the relationship escalator. It's the default path for romance in a culture. You meet, you date exclusively, become official, say I love you, move in, get engaged, marry, and stay that way till death do you part. It's a clear linear track. On the surface, that offers security and a map for the future. But underneath, it creates immense pressure. Example, you have situations where uh, after a certain level of, or not a level, certain period of time that perceived as a level of interacting with one another, one party wants to define the level of the relationship. Are we exclusive or not? And the unwillingness to complicate the relationship by burdening it with titles can make certain parties uncomfortable, which makes the other party um, insecure because they don't feel valued, because they do not have the honor of identifying the situationship that they're in as an exclusive official relationship. You have other scenarios where men are forced into marriages by their girlfriends because they've been dating for a number of years. The women start slowly rebelling, refusing to do uh, girlfriend duty or wifely duties that would maintain the sanctity of the marriage. But then they would turn back around and start demanding that if the guy is going to get whatever he's going to get from the girl, whether it's like make him a sandwich or help him out with something complicated around the house, or even in some situations intimacy, that he's got to marry her first, where they were expressing intimacy before that, but because it is now being leveraged as compelling positions to force the marriage, you have some individuals that end up in a marriage that they either were not ready to get into or did not feel the relationship was worthy of. And it's two different dynamics. And then pressuring that partner into a marriage, you end up causing a larger quantity of instability in the marriage while the person who did the pressuring feels secure in the marriage because he or she got what they wanted. The person that was pressured into the marriage now is in a more compromising situation. Every step on that escalator is supposed to be a milestone. And if you or your partner hesitates, wants to get off, or even just pauses to look at the view, it is often seen as a problem, a sign the relationship is doomed. This fear of failure becomes a powerful incentive to pretend. You pretend you're ready to move in, even if you're not. You pretend that you're not having doubts, even if you are. You pretend that your needs for personal space are different kinds of connection that don't exist because they don't fit the script. Whatever doesn't mesh well in the relationship, you pretend like it isn't an issue that needs to be evaluated. These unspoken rules create the perfect breeding ground for protective dishonesty. And men more often than not perform this behavior because men are self preserving. Our self preservation tactics cause us to say and do things that women would prefer men not do so that the men can survive in the relationship. You might tell small lies to protect your partner's feelings. You do this with your children. You don't tell them the truth because you personally don't know how you're going to handle their response. It's not because You don't know how the child will take it or if the child is capable of handling it. You can't handle their response to the news, so you don't provide them with the news. You hide your insecurities, your passing attractions to others, your deepest anxieties, all to protect the fragile structure of the couple title. Because, if you were attracted to another person in your exclusive monogamous relationship, your partner might accuse you of planning on cheating. If your partner's been cheated on in the past, he or she might start developing levels of insecurity in the current relationship because you have already selected options that you can explore during your relationship. You might have a don't ask, don't tell policy about things that feel threatening, even if no one ever says so out loud. The quiet agreement is that preserving the relationship is more important than revealing your full, messy, authentic self. This creates what relationship therapists see all the time: a ticking time bomb of resentment. When your needs go unspoken, they don't just disappear, they curdle. The nothing you say when your partner asks what's wrong becomes a heavy silence and a distance. Intimacy comes from open communication, but when you build a relationship on withheld truths, you're actively crippling away that same intimacy. You're chipping away at it and destroying it. The central problem is this: traditional relationships often teach us to prioritize the form of the relationship over the feelings of the people in it. We're taught to protect that institution at all costs, even if the cost is honesty. It can become more about managing appearances than cultivating genuine connections, lying about the affair instead of coming clean about it, having the affair instead of talking about the psychological and emotional concerns that led to the affair. So, what's the alternatives? How do you build a relationship where honesty isn't just a nice idea, but a structural necessity? This is where we ventured off the beaten path into what's called consensual non monogamy. Now, the term can sound intimidating, maybe conjuring images of chaos, but the reality is far more structured and intentional than most people think. The key word here is consensual. This isn't cheating. It's an umbrella term for any relationship where everyone openly agrees to have multiple romantic or sexual partners. It's not about breaking rules. It's about consciously writing new ones together, which in the current Gen Z population is starting to become more often than not. They're identified as open relationships. Again, I say situationships, friends with benefits, hookups, scuttle buddies. I don't know what all terms that they're using these days, but they're not the traditional monogamous relationship. Side piece to the side piece, all of that stuff. Backup plan, boyfriend number two, work boyfriend, work husband, all these other things. So let's break down a few common forms because they're not all the same. First up, you have the open relationships, and this is probably the most well known type. It usually involves the primary couple who agrees that they can have sex outside of their main relationship. The focus is often on sexual freedom, while the core emotional commitment remains between the two primary partners. The rules are unique to each couple. Some want to hear all the details, others prefer a don't ask, don't tell approach. The defining feature is the mutual agreement that sex with others is on the table and not a relationship destroyer. The next is one that's just started coming out to the surface is the uh, polyamory. The word literally means many loves, and that's a good way to think about it. Unlike open relationships that might focus on exclusively sex, polyamory is more about having multiple loving, intentional relationships at the same time with the full knowledge and consent of everyone involved. So you don't have side pieces or, extra individuals where certain people don't know about certain people. This is a situation where all the parties involved not only know about each other, but also interact with each other with full knowledge of what each party is doing. Almost like that show back in the day called Three's Company. These relationships can look like anything. Some are hierarchical, um, where we have a primary and a secondary partner. Others are not hierarchical, where all relationships hold equal weight. Think about it like it's every man's fantasy to have like two girlfriends. My girl's got a girlfriend. You remember that song? Um, or women that want to have like two guys, um, where men want a harem, where it's him and multiple different wives or multiple different girlfriends. Women want to have harems where it's her and multiple different men. But you have situations where there might be four people involved in there, where two men and two women, or three women and one man, or whatever the case may be. The situations change. The core idea is that love isn't a finite resource and it's possible to be committed to more than one person at one time. Ideally, in this dynamic, we recognize that we can fall in love about 150 times in a lifetime. Now, depending on the span of your life, depends on the average per year, typically about three times a year, more or less, you find yourself excessively attracted to another person, far beyond that of physical lust. And in these types of relationships where you're able to interact on that and see where it goes, and if it does become something legitimate, that person can enter into the relationship. Then, at the most philosophical, radical end, you have relationship anarchy. A relationship anarchist rejects all conventional labels. They don't automatically rank a romantic partner above a best friend or a sexual partner. Ladies, handle that as much as you want. 10 male best friends with benefits. It is what it is. Instead of the traditional norm, each relationship is free to become whatever it naturally wants to be. A relationship anarchist might live with one person, share deep romantic bonds with another person, have a sexual relationship with a third or five different people, refusing to place them in a hierarchy. Commitment isn't based on a title like boyfriend or wife, but on the ongoing active choice to show up for someone. Where in these scenarios, we have never thought about this before tonight's show, but in these scenarios, you might ask your partner, like, are we quote unquote getting serious? What do we call this? And I can tell you, shut the fuck up and call it perfect fucking attendance. That's what you call it. If she's giving you her undivided attention whenever she's not at work, if she's talking to you when she's on her job, if she's changing her schedule to come and spend time with you, that shows dedication. Whatever the hell you want to call it, you're her priority. Now, what does that mean to you? So instead of asking her to label it, recognize her consistency. Now, it's crucial to bust a common myth here because this is just an excuse to cheat or for people who feel commitment. That's the myth. It actually is the opposite of that. Cheating is about deception, voluntarily agreeing to stay exclusive to one individual for the rest of your life, with full understanding in our current Western culture that that's nearly impossible. Consensual non monogamy is about radical transparency. It requires a huge amount of commitment, not to a rule of exclusivity, but to a process of consistent, honest communication. So, why do these unorthodox structures demand more honesty? The answer is simple: the default settings are gone. In a monogamous relationship, there are a million things you don't have to talk about because you can rely on a shared cultural script that you don't have to explicitly say. We don't sleep with other people because it's the central assumed rule. The relationship escalates and provides the roadmap. This reliance on assumptions is the efficient but also honest way to fail because it's where the honesty is going to die. In order for you to maintain that image, in ethical non monogamy, there are no assumptions. You're building the entire relationship from the ground up, conversation by conversation. You can't function without explicitly discussing things most monogamous couples never touch. This is where radical honesty becomes a functional requirement. It's not just about telling lies, it's about proactively and compassionately sharing your authentic feelings, desires, and non negotiable expectations for behavior, especially when it's uncomfortable. In monogamy, you might bite your tongue because you think the truth will hurt. In non monogamy, it's understood that a withheld truth is a ticking time bomb that will cause far more damage later than what it's going to cause now. So think about the sheer logistics. If you and your partner decide to open your relationship, you have to have that talk and really talk. Don't come from a selfish perspective where you believe that you're going to be the playboy and you're going to be landing all these chicks, and then you set these rules like, oh, this is going to be in your benefit. Then when y'all agree to terms, she's getting the bottom knocked out of the frame 3 times a day, and you can't find a match, and you're jealous. No, you need to understand, why are we doing this? What are the non-negotiable expectations for behavior? What are the limitations here? Can we have feelings for other people? Can we sleep over at their house, or is it just a one and done and roll out kind of situation? What are our safer sex practices? How often will we check in with each other to make sure that we're still comfortable with the dynamic that we've set? And this isn't a situation where we're going to agree to do it. Then after we get our fill for it, then we're going to say, nope, we're going to go strictly monogamy where the other person has never indulged. We are changing based on the acceptance of the relationship. And these aren't one-time conversations. They are living agreements that require regular check-ins, weekly, bi-weekly, no less than monthly. And this process forces you to become incredibly attuned to your own emotions. It kind of falls in line with a few months ago and a couple of years ago when we were talking about relationship contracts that lead into marriage contracts. Because if you have these kinds of discussions and you write down the terms and conditions of your engagements with one another, while it's not necessarily actionable in a courtroom, social interaction is not actionable in a courtroom. Courtrooms deliberate the division of stuff. Okay, but you can go back and look at Rule 38, Guideline 92, and be able to determine, we talked about that, we agreed on that, we signed it, notarized it. This is what we're going to be doing until we amend this document. If we reach a point where line 92 is not efficient anymore, or feelings have changed and section 84 is no longer sustainable, then we have to amend the document and make changes. You can't just say, I feel weird. You have to dig deeper. What makes you feel weird? Is it jealousy, insecurity, both? The fear of being replaced? You have to learn to use I statements and listen to understand, not just reply. People in these relationships often develop amazing communication skills out of sheer necessity because they use shared calendars. They have weekly State of the Union meetings. They might even write up a relationship contract, like I just said, and make every expectation explicit. And this is going to sound very clinical and very repetitive, but what it actually is a radical commitment to clarity, which is not in a monogamous relationship. A monogamous relationship has expectations that are either fulfilled or unfulfilled, and then unspoken desires that might not be in line with the expectations that are either fulfilled or unfulfilled. With this type of unorthodox engagement, it's a refusal to let unspoken expectations poison the well. It's about building a space where you can say, I'm feeling insecure, and know your partner will see it as an invitation to connect, not an accusation, not an area of belittlement. Special shout out to Michael, another Michael, 988. Change the name. Yes, talking about open relationships. We're talking about different types of open relationships. This level of commitment can sound intimidating, and honestly, it is. It's a skill that has to be learned. Before we dive into the biggest challenge, this honesty has to face jealousy. I'm curious, what's one unspoken rule in relationships that you wish we could just get rid of, right? Let me know in the comment section. And if you're finding the conversation valuable, make sure that you guys consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Now, let's address the giant green eyed elephant in the room, that jealousy I just mentioned. Common myth about ethical non monogamy is that it's for people who just don't get jealous, that it's, to put it bluntly, bullshit. People in non monogamous relationships feel jealousy just like everyone else. The difference is not absence of jealousy, but the approach to it. In many traditional relationships, jealousy is treated as a fire to be put out and quickly as soon as possible. If your partner feels it, you might be expected to change your behavior to fix it, or stop talking to that friend, don't go to that event. That person uh, might change the way they behave to get your attention more, or that person might uh, repress how they feel about it until their irrational behavior starts causing conflicts in the relationship, and then they explain to you about their insecurities, and that's where the dynamics work. He said Warren Buffett has open relationships. His wife moved to California and his girlfriend lives with him and his wife approves it. Yeah, Will Smith's husband is with him and Jada Pinkett's got her man too. And they stay in separate houses. And their kids is all good. In ethical non monogamy, jealousy isn't a stop sign, it's a check engine light. It's not seen as a flaw in the relationship, but as a single signal. And in one of those invitations to get curious and look under the hood to see exactly what's going on. And when jealousy pops up, the goal isn't to immediately eliminate the triggers of the jealousy, but to ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Radical honesty is the tool for diagnosing the issues. So instead of just hiding the jealousy and shame or using it as a weapon, you're encouraged to own it. You might say, hey, I'm noticing I'm feeling really jealous about your date tonight, and I want to talk about it. You might tell your partner that you're insecure about the extensive quantity of time that they're spending with the other person. This opens the door to deeper self awareness. Is the jealousy really about the other person, or is it a fear of abandonment that you're personally experiencing? Envy that you don't have as much time with the person that you want as you actually get. Meaning you might want to spend all of your waking moments with that person, and that person might be prioritizing more time with someone else right now because that relationship is new. Uh, if it's insecurity, a legitimate concern that your needs aren't being met because the people only have so much time and energy to invest in things, and if they're spending too much time, energy, and effort into someone else, somewhere else, they might not have that energy for you. So, a legitimate concern that your needs aren't being met could be a clear question. Addressing jealousy becomes a team sport. It requires the empathy. And the partner who isn't jealous has a responsibility to not only listen, but offer reassurance. Because a simple text saying, I think I think of you and I'm so glad you're mine. If you read that, it can make a world of difference. The jealous partner has a responsibility to do their own self soothing work rather than placing the entire burden of their feelings on the other person. So, this process of openly discussing and dissecting jealousy can lead to a profound and unique emotion known as comparison, coined by the polymerous community. Now, I'm going to say that again, compersion, compersion, compersion. And compersion is basically the opposite of jealousy. It's the feeling of joy you get from watching your partner's happiness with someone else. And think of the warmth that you feel when your best friend gets a promotion. Compersion is applying that same empathetic joy to your romantic partner's life or their romantic life. Now, compersion is not a requirement, and many people rightly push back against it as a kind of toxic positivity that shames people for not feeling it. You can feel jealousy and compersion at the same time, but the possibility of compersion is a direct result of radical honesty. So you can only feel joy for your partner's other experiences in life if you feel fundamentally secure in your own connections. So if you're in a situation where you're not connecting with anybody and they're connecting with everybody, you're going to have a level of envy, jealousy, resentment. Compersion is not going to fit well with you. If you are struggling with abandonment issues, you came out of infidelity and now you're in an open relationship and your fear that that infidelity will manifest further or abandonment will manifest further, that they will find better somewhere else and drop you all together and not include you anymore, you have to work on those things. That security is built through countless honest conversations and the truth that your partner will always honor your agreements, right? To make this all a little more real, let's look at a few stories. Take story number one. You have a monogamous couple that's opening up to one another. Uh, if two people have been married for a decade and they love each other, but the sparks have faded, a friend mentions open relationships, and after many late night talks, they decide to try it. Not as an exciting strategic scenario or even as an exit strategy, but as a way to consciously re engage with each other. So it kicks off a series of brutal, honest conversations. And for the first time in years, they are talking about their fantasies. One is going to admit to feeling lonely, the other one's going to confess a deep fear of not being enough. They create a detailed agreement agreeing to start slow and schedule check ins twice a week. And the first time one person goes on a date and the other person feels a mess, it doesn't uh, put that person in a position where they pretend to be okay. They text immediately and be able to say, feeling really insecure right now and could use some reassurance, not as a cock blocking, undermining perspective, but as an open and honest feeling in the moment. The person on a date can step out from their date, call them, and let them know that they understand what's going on, right? And it is weird, but you know, you're choosing this morning, and you're going to choose to engage the other person. The person that you're in the marriage with is the person that you chose, and this is what you're going to finish off with. This is what you're coming home to. You know, nothing is going to change. So when you're out on the date with the new person and you're reassuring the old person that, hey, you know, I woke up with you this morning and I'm coming back home to you tonight. This is the reassurance that, whatever happens on this date, we're still going to be us. It's a real-time emotional support scenario, and it's made possible only by the honesty between the two parties. So when someone has their first kiss in a scenario with someone new, they are going to go back and tell their partner about it. And this is something that they agreed upon, and it's going to be awkward. They're going to feel that, ping of jealousy. But instead of letting it fester, you're going to be able to admit that you appreciate knowing about it and that you might not feel too comfortable with the situation, feeling a little bit jealous and, you know, thinking that it's becoming uh really serious and you're worried about the comparison of the new person to the old person. This is another opening scenario. And the conversation about their own intimacy, which is something that they haven't expressed with one another in years, starts to develop. The forced honesty is actually resurrecting their bond. And this is actually something that happens with marriages that have lost its spark. They separate and date other people. And then they come back and they see what happens with their marriage after that. A lot of the times they realize after getting out into the dating world and seeing how ridiculous it is, how difficult it is, how frustrating it is, that what they already have built is far more valuable than starting over. And then they put more effort into fixing their marriage. Story number two is a polyamorous throuple. Usually, uh, encouraged is two men and a woman, or two women and a man. But you know, since it's a throuple, let's do Clara, David, and Eva. Clara and David were a couple who both fell for Eva. My girl's got a girlfriend. And after months of discussion, they formed a triad. Now, the complexity skyrockets. I know y'all have seen it on social media recently, where uh, you're starting to have uh, open discussions about uh, Three people getting married to each other. They maintain shared Google calendars for everything. They have meetings every Sunday night. One week, Eva expresses that she feels like she's getting less quality time. It's an observation, not an accusation. Instead of getting defensive, Clara and David listen. They look at the calendar and realize she's right. Their couple privileges, the ingrained habits from their years together, has made them unintentionally neglectful. They don't just apologize, they restructure their schedules to ensure everyone's needs are being met. This kind of honesty and the adjustment that comes from it is constant. Now, a third story is relationship anarchist. Individual named Finn practices relationship anarchy. They live with their nesting partner, Jordan, sharing a home and finances, but their relationship isn't traditionally romantic. Finn is also having a long distance romantic partner named Sam, and their closest emotional support comes from their best friend, Mariah. To the outside world, it's confusing. Who is your real partner? People might ask. Finn rejects the question altogether. The honesty here is about being true to what each connection is without forcing it into a box. This requires constant, transparent negotiation about time, energy, and expectations. When Sam wanted more communication, Finn had to be honest about their capacity. I love you deeply, Finn might explain, and I also have to balance my commitments to others as well as myself. So let's find a rhythm that works for the both of us rather than one based on what a partner is quote unquote supposed to provide, right? Commitment isn't passive here, it's an active daily choice to show up. At this point, you might be thinking, this is interesting, but I'm happily monogamous. What does that have to do with me, right? Everything. You don't have to be polyamorous to benefit from these principles. The fact is, a recent meta analysis found no significant difference in relationship satisfaction between people in monogamous and non monogamous relationships. This suggestion emphasizes the structure itself isn't what creates happiness. The quality of the relationship, including trust, intimacy, and communication, is what matters. Unorthodox relationships don't have a monopoly on happiness, but they do offer a masterclass in the skills required to get there. Here's what we can learn. First, communicate proactively, not just reactively. Don't wait for crisis to occur before you start to talk. Schedule regular State of the Unions with your partner. Make it a walk or a dinner with no phones. Ask each other uh, whatever's genuinely striking your curiosity. Ask them what's going on. How are we doing? What felt great this week and what felt hard? Is there anything you need from me that you aren't getting? This creates a dedicated space for that honesty. Second question, the escalator. Actively check in on your shared goals and individual growth. Ask your partner, who are you becoming? What are you excited about? How can I support that? How does that change who we are becoming? This prevents stagnation and it keeps your relationship relevant to who you are today. Third, define love on your own terms. Sit down with your partner and question the assumptions. Do you both actually want to buy a house? Or is that just the next prescribed step? Does your social life have to be completely merged. Choose your own values over the pre approved list. This is an act of collective authenticity. The truth is, many monogamous couples already practice these skills, but in consequential non monogamy, they aren't optional. They are the price of admission. It's the difference between having a fire extinguisher in the house just in case and being a firefighter who trains with their equipment every single day. So, are unorthodox relationships more honest? The structure itself isn't magic, but it creates a system where dishonesty is profoundly and immediately unsustainable. When you remove the default script, you have to become the architect of your own connections. And the only reliable building materials that you have is truth. The ultimate takeaway here isn't the monogamy is flawed or that uh, polyamory is better. The argument is that the principles that make unorthodox relationships work, which is radical honesty, proactive communication, and conscious negotiation, are the very same principles that can make a monogamous relationship thrive. Perhaps the greatest lesson here is a challenge to all of us, regardless of our relationship style, to stop sleepwalking through our love lives. Stop relying on unspoken rules or putting it on somebody else as their responsibility to maintain our happiness in a relationship with our partner, and to have courage to ask the uncomfortable questions and the grace to truly hear the answer. Because a lot of times, ladies, y'all might ask a man if he thinks you look good in that outfit, or does this outfit make your butt look big, or are you fat, or questions that are to boost your ego if he lies to you, or hurt your feelings if he tells you the truth. If the outfit doesn't look good on you, it doesn't look good on you. It doesn't mean that you're not attractive. It just means that you need to put on something else. If your goal was to not have a big butt, but you have a naturally big butt, you can wear looser clothes and not emphasize it as much. If your goal is to have a big butt and you don't have a big butt, the goal is to probably wear something less loose that might emphasize the butt a little bit more. Whatever the case may be, if your goals aren't being met with your personal choices, then you're asking your partner for their honest observations. Whatever they tell you is the truth, is what you should be getting. If you're a bad singer, your friends and your loved ones should not tell you that you're an amazing singer. They should be able to tell you truthfully, you suck like a shrieking pelican on a mic drunk in a karaoke bar. Like, if that's what it's like 13 cats drowning in a pool of hot water, if that's what it's like, explain it. Tell them the truth, because it would be better for you to tell your partner that their fly is undone, or there's a stain on their shirt, or that their wig is on backwards, than it is for them to find out after an all day event where the people they were trying to impress saw it and didn't say anything. They would be more embarrassed, ashamed, insulted that you didn't call it out to begin with and stop them from making a fool of themselves, because they are on the inside looking out and you're on the outside looking in. And if you see what they don't see, you are entrusted with the responsibility to tell the person that you love, be it your best friend, your kid, your sibling, your parents, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, that you look bad in that outfit. That hair is toe down. That hot pink does not match your chocolate brown skin complexion. And if you're watching this show and I just called you out, change your damn hair color. Straight up. Long ass eyelashes curling up like centipedes on your eyes. Ain't cute. And the glue that it take to put it up there is ruining your natural eyelashes where your natural beauty cannot shine. Because once you peel the eyelashes off of your face, you got three twigs left on your eyeball. The truth. That's what you're aiming for. Love isn't about finding a perfect person to fit into a pre written story. It's about finding a co author, or in some situations, co authors, multiples, willing to write a new story with you, one honest sentence at a time. As you guys keep going on this journey, I want you guys to remember that exploring these ideas takes an open mind, and I appreciate you lending me yours. So if you guys find that this has sparked new ideas for you, make sure that you include those ideas in the comments because I read all of them. And I'm genuinely curious to hear what perspectives that you might have. And for more deep dives into the ways that we love and connect, remember to like, subscribe, join the membership, and share this with somebody that you know can need it. That's all I have for you for the moment. Thank you guys for coming to this and that. First of all, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. And ladies, please make it make sense. And then for the rest of you guys, I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground.